Okay, so let's dive in. What if, like the lines we see on maps, what if they're blurring? I mean, really blurring.
How do you mean exactly?
Well, you see things like a tweet from, I don't know, one country, and it suddenly sparks this huge movement somewhere else entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Or think about a hurricane just barreling across borders.
Yeah.
They don't care about lines on a map, right?
No, of course not. Natural phenomena don't recognize sovereignty.
And then you've got these huge tech companies.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like they have, a bigger say than actual governments.
Right.
It just gets you thinking, in this really connected world we live in, is that whole idea of the nation state maybe becoming a bit old news.
That's pretty much the heart of what we're digging into today, yeah. We've looked at some really interesting sources listeners sent in.
Oh, great.
And they all kind of tackle this head on, how borders, national identity, even the very concept of sovereignty, how it's all shifting in the 21st century.
Because, I mean, for centuries, the nation state was it, right? The ultimate authority.
Absolutely. It set the laws, decided on war, basically defined who belonged and who didn't. It was the container.
But these sources we looked at, they seem to point towards something changing. One described it as power leaking away.
Exactly. Leaking is a good word for it. And what's fascinating is how it's leaking. It's not just one thing.
Oh.
Our sources point to, well, like you said, the big Silicon Valley players influencing global conversations, maybe more than national laws sometimes.
You definitely see that.
And then there are hacker collectives, groups that can genuinely destabilize governments.
Wow.
Plus, you have international bodies, the UN, the EU, stepping in or trying to step in for these huge problems no single nation can fix alone.
Like climate change, presumably.
That's a prime example. But also things like pandemics.
And it's not just the big institutions, right? The sources also mentioned individuals.
Yeah, exactly. People forming communities online, finding connections across the globe, these digital tribes sort of that bypass national borders completely.
It feels like everyone can find their niche online, no matter where they live.
Mm-hmm. And one source even brought up how some massive corporations, multinationals, they wield more economic clout than quite a few countries.
You hear that sometimes, yeah.
And then there's the whole digital currency thing challenging central banks. That's another angle.
So all these different pressures chipping away at that traditional state authority.
Precisely. And you see the struggle when nations try to deal with these really big borderless challenges. You mentioned climate change, but also, like we said, pandemics, cyber warfare is huge, refugee crises.
Global supply chains, too. That's been massive lately.
Totally. These are complex, interconnected issues, and one nation acting alone often just can't manage effectively.
It makes you think about your own experience, doesn't it? I mean, have you ever felt, more connected to some online group, people scattered everywhere, than maybe what's happening right down the street?
It happens. Or that feeling of frustration, maybe, when you see these huge global problems and national leaders seem, well, kind of stuck or unable to make real progress.
Yeah, that feeling.
And that's significant, that global connection versus the local. If we loop that back to the sources, the big question really becomes, can the nation state actually evolve to handle all this?
Does it just become less and less relevant?
Exactly. Is it adaptable or is it fading? And look, this isn't just some abstract political debate. It genuinely hits at how we see ourselves, our place in the world.
Right, because if our main identity isn't just, say, citizen of country X under one flag, then, well, who are we? What other ways of belonging might sort of pop up as these older structures wobble a bit?
It's a fundamental question. So yeah, bringing it all together, the sources really show this picture of a world where that old school nation state framework is under, well, significant pressure from our interconnected reality.
Okay, so the established way is being challenged hard. So if that traditional definition is starting to feel a bit shaky, less solid, it really leaves you wondering about what comes next, doesn't it?
It does.
What new possibilities open up? But also, what are the challenges, the potential difficulties, as we maybe start to reimagine what belonging even means in the 21st century?
Yeah.
Something to chew on, for sure.